ANC reaffirmed our historic and ongoing support for the inalienable right of self-determination of the people of Western Sahara. And we reaffirm our support for the struggle for self-determination for the people of Palestine. We condemn and have taken action at the International Court of Justice against Israel's genocide against the people of Gaza. We reaffirm our principled stance to the resolution of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and will continue to work towards ending that conflict through dialogue and negotiations. We continue to be engaged in silencing the guns on our continent through our engagement in the various conflicts that are taking place on our continent. South Africa will host the annual G20 summit in 2024. Some people say that this G20 summit, when many heads of states will descend on our country, could be at the same level as the 2010 FIFA football contest that took place here, or even bigger. We therefore need to embark on a national project of ensuring that the G20 does become successful. This is an important platform to advance the interests of our continent, Africa, and other countries of the global south, and to mobilize support for a more just and equal world order. The African Continental Free Trade Area offers our country a great opportunity to benefit from inter-regional trade within our continent.
For some analysis now on this, we're now joined by political analyst Professor Dirk Kotze, and he joins us now via our video link. Professor, thank you so much for your time. It has certainly been a very busy weekend for the ANC. It had its ANC NEC meeting, and of course today also kicked off its Lekgotla. Let's start off and reflect on the ANC's the NEC meeting which took place, and of course it had to look now inwardly to try and ascertain how it got to its 40% at the polls in May 2024 this year. What do you make of the reflections that it has, conducted during this NEC meeting?
Well, I think what we have heard so far about the analysis, the factors that they've identified themselves as contributing to that, I think these are very important points, and they do, in the broader perspective, did play a very important role in causing the ANC's decline. I think what stands out to a large extent is the fact that they look so much at the local level. Although it was in national and provincial elections, the issues at local government level played certainly a very important role, according to the ANC. The problems with infrastructure, the problems with services affected the lives of millions of South Africans very immediately. And that was seen as a very important component of it. Together with, at the same time, also, which now flows over into the Lekgotla, is the fact that it's about the lack of capacity of the state in general. The public sector, it goes also into the areas of the SOEs and the new dispensation of it, where they believe that though load shedding is now something less or not prominent at all at the moment, but for many years it did affect the economy and the lives of many people, and that contributed also, in their view, to their decline. So at the same time, I think the important point that they've identified is the role of the Inkonto Party, especially in a province like KwaZulu-Natal, that indeed also played a very important role in their decline. And then the role of other political parties, the proliferation of political parties, some parties that become very much sort of identity-based parties, like in the Western Cape. So there's a plethora of factors that really contributed to this.
Looking at, where the ANC went wrong, do you think that, it has the capabilities as we prepare for the 2026 local government elections? Can it, correct its wrongs? Or would you say that it's a little too late and the damage has been done? It would be very difficult for them, to go back to a 50% majority.
Well, we can never say it's too late, but it is very little time that's available for them to change. It's not only about the de facto performance of governments, but it is also the public perception about what the ANC is doing. And in the case of the ANC, it's a two-pronged approach that they will have to follow. The one is to improve the quality of government, where the ANC is the leading party or the majority party, and then also to change the ANC itself. And I think that is the most challenging part for the ANC. This project of what they call renewal has been there since 2018, the so-called new dawn of President Ramaphosa. But many people feel that they don't see actually the results of that, and that the ANC has to dramatically change the way in which they conduct themselves, the quality of membership, the quality of leadership in the ANC. So I would say that is possibly the most difficult component of a turnaround strategy for the ANC.
And today, the ANC kicked off its Lekgotla, and, looking at what it said, it will be focusing on, especially under this government of national unity, will be those 6 priorities it had. It's an elections manifesto this year. But one would ask, the ANC is not fully in charge of the country. It has a 40% majority. It has these priorities within its party, those 6 priorities, which includes the creation of jobs and a focus on the economy. How does it carry out this mandate now that it finds itself under a government of national unity?
I think the purpose of this Lekgotla is to restate what the ANC's positions on all these different matters are. So whether it is about job creation, the so-called 6 priority areas of the ANC, which is about capacity building of the state, it's about changing the state-owned enterprises, the way in which they have functioned over time. It's about crime prevention and so on. So what this is not, and I think the public in general should not become confused about it. This is the ANC's policies, the inputs that they will give into the government of national unity. Now, we had already had the cabinet Lekgotla. Strictly speaking, in terms of my own logic, the ANC Lekgotla should have happened actually before the cabinet Lekgotla. But we will have to see to what extent how this is going to, from a procedural point of view, how this is going to happen. But I think the important point is the ANC must clarify what's their position, what's their policy positions, what's their strategy, and what therefore their input will be into the broader framework of the government of national unity's policies and government projects and procedures that they are going to follow. So this will give us an understanding of what is therefore the ANC's component or the ANC's dimension and where the ANC stands. For example, this insert about President Ramaphosa on the foreign policy. This is the ANC's foreign policy. It's not the government of national unities necessarily, although the two might overlap to a large extent.
And Prof, earlier on, I mean, you touched on the issue around, having the Lekgotla first in the ANC and then having a cabinet Lekgotla. Why do you think that this time around the ANC took this approach and not having the Lekgotla before a cabinet Lekgotla took place?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the election. It has a lot to do with the urgency to establish coherence within the government of national unity. So instead of going through the more conventional process, I think President Ramaphosa and others, the leaders of the main parties, said, well, let's first come together and try to find each other on common issues. Because there was a lot of speculation in public and even some anticipation that parties are wide apart, that they are ideologically on different planets almost, and that they won't find each other. So what they have done is to present, well, first of all, amongst themselves, come to the point of saying we have a common understanding about many issues, and also demonstrating to us as the public to say that we are not a fractious unit or government that works just, and that there's all sorts of possibilities for it to split or to fracture or to go in different directions. And now that they've sort of established that as a point of departure, now the different parties, and the ANC is the first one, will possibly go there to restate where they come from and what their inputs into the government of national unity processes will be.
There have also been calls been made also by former President Thabo Mbeki when it comes to a national dialogue that needs to take place. Do you think there's any value in this route of trying to hold a national dialogue?
There has been calls for this from various corners, from various points. President Mbeki is one of them. I think in the past there was for many years actually, the idea of an economic CODESA. There were in some cases the question about that there must be a national conventions or national coming together about issues like about crime, for example, about economic development. That NETLAC is not necessarily the forum that works effectively in order to establish this more common national consensus about economic and socio-economic issues. So there is certainly a place for this. I think the key question will be, is the implementation of it, because as it stands at the moment, and as I've heard that President Mbeki gave an input in this NEC meeting about this again now, is who will participate and in what form will be the participation, because it can be such a huge event that it's not very effective. So it's going, in principle, I think many people support the idea, but it is now going to be how will it be operationalized, how will it be implemented so that there is really effective participation by a wide spectrum from society.
All right, Professor Kotze, thank you so much for your time. That's Professor Dirk Kotze, the political analyst, just giving us his analysis when it comes to the ANC's NEC meeting, which took place this weekend, of course, as well as the ANC cabinet, or rather ANC Lekgotla, which also kicked off today, and that comes to an end tomorrow.